Thanks for joining us for another JB&A webinar. And I am here with Steve McKenna, who's a sales manager over at Studio Network Solutions. And he is going to run through a bunch of information about how the Studio Network storage solutions fit in with Adobe Creative Cloud and Premiere and all of that. So thank you so much for joining us, Steve.
Oh, thank you, Laura, and thanks for having us. Hi, everyone. Today we're going to go over kind of the unique challenges of the Adobe workflow as it applies to shared storage and kind of how different storage servers may interact in different ways to accomplish workflows within the Adobe Creative Suite. First and foremost, we're Studio Network Solutions. We've been around now for 17 years. We have over 50,000 customers worldwide. We've been doing nothing but shared storage for video and audio production during that 17-year life. Some of the clients we've been privileged to work with and continue to work with on a day-to-day basis to help them bring their content to the world. Many of these are Adobe clients. Many of them have, multiple production applications. As we continue to grow in our space, we see all sorts of different tools come in. So on to the fun part. Now we get to talk specifically about Adobe Creative Cloud and some of the ways we can interact with storage with Adobe and some of the unique challenges, again, that Adobe presents inside of a shared storage workflow. So first, to make sure we're starting off all on the same page, kind of want to juxtapose old ways of doing things, maybe some sneaker net, some workaround kind of stuff that we've been doing, and how shared storage, and specifically the EVO shared storage from SNS, is really going to accelerate and maintain your Adobe workflows as you scale. So first, what we used to do is we would have local storage. This is where we see a lot of our clients start and move up from into a shared storage environment. Local storage is certainly inexpensive to get started, and a lot of the inefficiencies of local storage are masked by smaller user counts, maybe 1 or 2 users. But what really denotes this, and how you can always tell, is everyone has a drive at their workstation. And the problem here is when we start to get into larger projects, or we start to scale our team out and we grow, we have to have copies of all the source material in order to begin to collaborate. So we have to copy every file we get multiple times across multiple workstations. Versioning can become a nightmare. We don't know what's current. We don't know what's going on. And all of these issues and all of this time lost as we grow as a team together just exacerbates themselves. So now instead of copying to 3 people, now we're copying to 6 people and losing even more time, and we have even more versions running around. And so as we moved on into 2015, and in honor of Back to the Future Day here just a week or so ago, we don't have hoverboards quite yet, but we do have some seriously fast, seriously collaborative storage. So the next step was shared storage. And that allowed us not to have to copy files across from workstation to workstation or from direct attached drives. So it was more collaborative. Everyone was sharing from one location and could stream over the network. And it was much easier to scale out because everything was in a centralized location. To do a quick juxtaposition, it would be kind of like everyone in your family, from a local storage perspective, having their own refrigerator. We don't need 4 bottles of mustard. We need 1 bottle of mustard, and everyone can go get it, right? And that's kind of where the shared storage piece came in. And you can identify shared storage by all the acronyms, and these are network protocols that go around it. So if you hear things like NAS or SAN or SMB or ASP, these are all different ways to connect to that storage. Each has its own advantage or disadvantage depending upon your OS, but that's how you're going to be able to identify if you're playing with shared storage. Let's move forward. Now the downside to that is a normal shared storage appliance, even one tuned for video, by the nature of the Adobe software, creates some challenges within shared and collaborative workflows. First and foremost, the lack of network awareness from Adobe. So the Adobe suite, none of the individual softwares inside it, whether it be Premiere or SpeedGrade or After Effects or what have you, know that they're on a network. And that's actually going to lead to a lot of potential problems. First and foremost, the potential overwriting of project files as we try to collaborate. In the real world, what this lack of network awareness translates to is that two editors can actually open the same project file at the same time. They don't know that the other one is in there, and because there's only a single file name, when they save back, only one of them is going to get to save, and we're going to find out who tomorrow, which is not a good day for somebody. We also have to worry about deleting things. When we were on a local drive, if we deleted something, it went to a trash can, and we could pull it back if it was a mistake. Or we had 3 other copies on 3 other workstations. But with shared storage, when something is removed from the network and deleted, it's gone. So hopefully we have that backed up, and we meant to delete it, and it wasn't an accident. Adobe also can create large numbers of files, whether it be autosave files or multiple versions of projects as we do scratch renders. So having these in an organized, easy-to-find path is not always the easiest thing to do as everyone's trying to share in and out of the same space. Now the next thing is one of the greatest strengths of Adobe, and one of the reasons so many of us switched to Adobe, was its support for native codecs. No more wasting time transcoding. We can edit natively, whether it be in a camera codec like a Sony XD Cam, or ProRes if we have older FCP7 files. Adobe gives us a large array to be able to edit in without having to, again, go through those time-consuming transcode processes. But when it comes to shared storage, too, that can make taking on new projects kind of a pain, because we don't know what the source material may be coming in. Maybe we have one project coming in as H.264, which is a fairly light codec to stream over a network from a bitrate standpoint. But maybe the next client comes in and says, hey, we shot everything and, you know, Red Dragon, and now we're going to do 6K. Well, the storage demands there are very different than they are for H.264. So we need a system that can scale with us regardless of what the project is, and make sure that it has the horsepower to handle whatever may or may not come in. So the EVO, specifically our shared storage server, solves these in a variety of different ways. First and foremost, we have an entire array of workflow tools that are going to help you keep organized, get to things more quickly, do your copies with more peace of mind to make sure that there hasn't been any silent corruption over the network. We're going to allow you to edit directly over the network in real time, so you're not going to have to worry about doing the old push-pull workflow where, yes, we have an Office server, but I'm still waiting for copies to pull things down to my network. We can handle any codec size, including up to 4K DPX sequences. So if you've got DaVinci coming in as well as Adobe for your grading, if you're going off to After Effects or anything like that, we're going to be able to enhance that workflow. And then most importantly, to solve that overwrite problem, we're going to have some really cool intuitive file locking that I'm going to show you here in just a second with our live demo. So with that said, we're going to jump into a live environment with 2 different workstations. And we're going to see that pop up here. I have 2 workstations, one left, one right. And so these are actually 2 different Macs that we have running Premiere and running connected to our ShareBrowser server. Or connected to our EVO server, running our ShareBrowser software. So the ShareBrowser is what the interface you see here is. And this is where an editor is going to live. What we've tried to do here is really create a much more network-friendly version of the Finder or the Explorer. So instead of the old way, again, if we're going to juxtapose this against traditional shared storage, is when I mount a volume, whether it be a SAN or a NAS, it's going to show up on my desktop here. And then if I want to, say, ingest material or copy files from one share to another, maybe pull a graphics element, I'm going to open multiple Finder windows to do so. I'm going to navigate through. You know, I'm going to find the volume. I'm going to find the footage. I'm going to drag it from one window to another. So this creates a few problems for an editor in a day-to-day environment. First and foremost, my desktop gets really cluttered with Finder windows or with Explorer windows before I even touch my production application, whether it be Premiere or After Effects. So the first thing we really wanted to accomplish with the ShareBrowser was to give you a single pane of glass to manage everything on the network so that you could just have one window open and also your production application. And that way you have everything in front of you on a dual display system to be able to manage your day and get through things as quickly as possible. So with that said, let's take a quick tour around the ShareBrowser interface. On the left-hand side here, left-hand column, we can see all of the volumes that we have access to as an editor. These can be permissioned off. Not all editors need to see everything. Maybe they just see the project they're working on. As we move to the center pane here, I can see the file structure of that share. So now I can see all the files, as opposed to, instead of opening a Finder window, I have quick access to everything. I can copy from one share to another with a simple drag and drop. However, dragging and dropping is also another issue that we have on a network. The Mac Finder nor the Windows Explorer inherently perform any data verification. So when we go to ingest things, we can actually corrupt them on copy. And we call this silent corruption because the OS isn't aware that the file has been broken. And so what will happen to an editor or to a supervisor or anyone who wants to review this file is it will present itself as usually weird sound pops, digital ghosting, pixelation, banding within the video stream that's inexplicable and wasn't in the source. That usually means your copy didn't complete appropriately. In order to mitigate that with the EVO, we've added a pretty cool little feature here. If I do a Command C and I go to copy, I'm going to right click. We've added a paste and verify command. So now on ingest, instead of just dragging and dropping and hoping it makes it and then getting into the middle of my my edit and finding out the 12 or 15 frames that I needed are the ones that didn't quite make it in the copy, I can use this paste and verify command with a Shift Command V, and that's going to allow me, one of two things is really going to happen here. I'm either going to, the copy's going to complete and everything's going to be fine, or I'm going to get an error message. It's going to tell me, hey, source and destination don't match. In which case, I can either watch the ingested file and make sure that the part that got messed up isn't the part that I needed, or I can reinitiate that copy with the paste and verify command and hope it makes it this time, right? So a little more peace of mind there as we move large files around the network. Now the right-hand column is pretty cool as well. It's going to give us things like preview, full-res preview of the file. I can scrub it here. I can watch. I can see what's going on. And then we notice beneath the preview pane that I have a tags and a comment. So this leads us into another interesting issue with kind of generic shared storage, your generic NAS devices, is once we start putting everyone in a central repository and they all start loading content in and out at any given moment, keeping that organized can be quite a pain. And so that's why we have things like asset management. So what we've done with the EVO is we've built in a very easy to use asset manager that will allow you to index and search and make your storage searchable, as well as add specific keywords and tags. So in this case, we have a shot of a parking lot. So I'm going to apply that tag, and I'm going to hit save. And now I can immediately come up and search for parking lot. And there we go. I can quickly find the file that is the parking lot shot. And from the search result, this is nifty as well, I don't have to follow a file path back to try to find that file. I don't have to say, oh, it's on the Adobe volume, it's in this 2012 NASA shuttle trainer folder and then a subfolder. I can actually right-click right here, and if the volume weren't mounted to the network, so that would be denoted as kind of one of those gray lights, that's not active, but we can see it. I could mount directly from here, or I could say take me to the file in the file list, and it'll take me there no matter how many folders or subfolders deep, and then I can import that to Premiere, whether it be with a simple drag and drop, or through the Premiere interface with a file import. We also have a comments field beneath the tags. So if we think of tags very much as a keyword search, specific descriptors, the comments field is often used for log notes. So maybe I have a weird sound pop at 2 minutes, and I need to have that redubbed. So I'm going to say redub here. Then we save. And again, because this is immediately updated, if I'm the audio editor or I'm the person responsible for doing those redubs, I can come up now and do a search. just for the redub term. And the ShareBrowser is again going to find that file for me, and now I have a task list of things to do today. I need to make sure that we get the audio for this file correct, or maybe we need to do some sweetening, or maybe this thing is ready for approval. Let's go ahead and navigate back to the file quickly. And again, we're getting to all of our source material in just 2 clicks. But maybe we want to do, this is ready for approval. Save. Now as a producer or a post supervisor, I can do a search, ready for approval. And there's my task list for the day. And then I can change the comments to approved, denied. I can leave log notes back as to why I denied it. Maybe I want there to be more star wipes because I'm a sucker for a good star wipe. So that's there. So what we really tried to do with this ShareBrowser is to get you as an editor and as a producer where you need to be as quickly as possible. You'll notice too, some of the volumes listed on the left-hand side here aren't necessarily stored on my server. So we see the Mavericks hard drive. I can index and search a local hard drive or any hard drive that's been hooked up to that system. So think of this for managing source material that lives outside of the project as it comes in. If we keep a digital master, we get a field drive in. We plug that in via USB or Thunderbolt to a workstation. It can be indexed. It can be made searchable. It can be tagged and commented on. And the EVO, by virtue of where its database lives, will remember what's on that drive even if it's no longer physically connected to the network. So if we look at this edit 2 volume, for instance, or edit 1, which has been indexed, this isn't mounted. I can't see a preview here, but I know what's on the drive. And if it had been tagged, so I can still add a tag, so save. I can now find that even if the drive isn't there. So if we have something that breaks, if there's something, someone deletes some source material off the active project, I can still find where that is in my Nearline and know which drive on the shelf it is, which drive I need to plug in. And then if the drive is physically connected to the network, just not mounted to the workstation, again, we'll just mount from right here. And that'll take me in. I can find the file and get it in. Well, this is great, and it's quick, and it's easy to add tags and comments. Maybe we also want those tags and comments to live inside of Premiere where we're used to seeing our metadata. So let's go back to the Adobe Share here. I'm going to grab a project file. Let's go ahead and open that up. A couple of things are going to happen here. First and foremost, the project's going to open inside of Premiere, but we're also going to be able to grab and import material via XML, which any of you who have come from Final Cut 7 may be very aware of. Actually, this is not the project I want. We're going to come in here. This way, anything that's been pre-tagged or worked on before that you've added metadata to, as it's brought in, that metadata will then map, and you can see it where you're used to inside of the Premiere interface. So here we see that when I did an XML import earlier, I've got this was tagged Seattle Super Guppy Waterfront. The description field is that keyword field. It maps to the tags field of the ShareBrowser. The log notes field is to the comments. So I can then see in here, I can scroll across, and now these log notes are available to everybody on the network. So if a producer changes, again, if something's ready for approval, or if it's not, or if we want to change something, I want to do a star wipe, or I want to do an audio redub, I can see that whether I'm working from within the ShareBrowser interface or whether I'm working from within the Premiere interface. And we can go ahead and do that simply here with an import, and I can grab that XML, and we'll see it suck those in and then populate just like we would expect. Now, this is also where Premiere gets tricky on the network, because I'm now in a project file, and it is unaware that I have user permission to this file, that I am currently working on it. So anyone else could open this file on the network, and they would be able to overwrite me. If they saved first, they would win. And any changes I had would be lost. I wouldn't know they were lost until I went back into this project tomorrow and found out I lost all of yesterday. So the other thing that happened inside the UI, inside the ShareBrowser client, when we opened this file, is automatically this green write lock appeared. That tells me I am the right user for that file and that that file is in use. Now I'm going to pop over to the Demo 2 system here. Let's go ahead and mount up the Adobe volume. We're going to mount it right from here. And now that we're into the Adobe volume, we can come down and we'll notice that that lock column on the Demo 2 system, on the Editor 2 or whoever, now has a grayed out lock icon with the Demo 1 username. So I know that someone is working on this file. And this protects me. So this is great from a couple of standpoints. One, we can kind of see what everybody's doing so that we can work much more collaboratively. We know who's in what where. But I can also still open this file. I can get it in a read-only form. So think of it as something, maybe I want to come in and I'm going to do an intro-outro off of a preset timeline, and if we're talking about episodic TV, or I want to do an alternative cut for producer review or for client review, for that matter. Maybe it's a commercial work, something more short form. We can do that, and we're completely protected. So now when I enter the system here, I'm going to open the project file. I can make whatever changes I want to make. But when I go to save, I'm going to be defaulted off to a save as. I'm going to be told, no, you don't want to save. You're going to overwrite somebody else's work. This is a bad idea. And then it's going to take me, and I can go to save as. I can then change the file name, which will give me a new version within the same folder, so everything's still living in the same space. And then I can use my comments field to maybe call it an intro-outro. I have to, give me 1 second, guys. We should probably also mount the share where the media lives. We'll pop back into Premiere over here. Let's reopen that without offlining it. There we go. I can't save. I would have broken somebody else's stuff. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come up, and I'm just going to do a save as. And maybe we make this version 2. Now we'll save. We can safely quit. We'll see version 2, which because I had open, I was the right user. That lock now clears because I closed out of Premiere. And maybe this was the intro-outro. Save. So now we know why that file's there. We're able to message back and forth. And again, just really increase the collaborative nature without everyone having to pile into a central meeting room and try to figure out what we've done or what's going on, or have approval renders and approval meetings. It massively streamlines the workflow. So the one potential problem with an auto-locking mechanism, obviously, is if somebody got into my file before I did. That would be an issue. Maybe my producer entered to review things. And I want to take control. I'm the editor. I should be editing. They need to read only. So what I can do here is we've built in a messenger service that I can right-click. I can request an unlock. And it's going to send a pop-up message over here. Hey, Demo 2 wants your file. Yes or no? I'm going to go ahead and say yes. Maybe I was the producer and I don't need write permission. So when we say yes and we move back over to the Demo 2 system, we're going to watch that lock vanish. I can now open the file with write permission and get to work. If I had said no, a pop-up message would come back that says, not right now, I'm busy, in which case we would have to find some other way to fight about write permission. If ever anyone has an octagon in their basement, let the editors go at it. It's fun to watch. So that's going to solve the accidental overwrite of files issue. It's going to keep you protected there. Now the next thing we worry about with shared storage, and this less unique to Adobe, this is true of any shared storage with any application, is what happens if somebody deletes something? Then we really have a problem. Maybe it was a 3-day shoot on site that we can't go get back. So let's grab a piece of source material here. Let's grab a .mov. I'm going to delete it, and it's going to warn me. But I'm still going to hit delete. I didn't know any better. I thought we were done. So with most systems, this is a major issue. We'd have to go find that. Hopefully it's backed up. We'd have to go find that source on a shelf. EVO obviously is going to give us a couple of ways to solve that problem. A, I can search for the source, and if it was on a drive on the shelf, I know which drive it was on. But I want to be faster than that. I don't want to have to go find a drive on the shelf. So what I'm entering now, guys, is the admin utility of the EVO system. So you hit it just like you would hit any other network device. I'm going to punch in an IP address, and if I have admin credentials, I can enter here. And what we've added to the network is a network recycle bin. So just like you would be able to open your trash can here and undelete something, you're going to be able to do the same thing in the EVO. So we can come in, we can browse deleted files by share. Now someone's been going a little delete crazy. Here is a file that we just deleted. And let's come back, and we're going to restore that back into place. Hit OK. And then when we refresh back, the file will return to its location. It's important to note here, everyone, too, that you can actually set the trash can to auto purge. So you'd want, if you want it to empty every couple of weeks, just to be safe, you can do that. So the next kind of Adobe-specific issue that I want to address is the native codec support. Again, one of Adobe's greatest strengths from an editorial perspective can be one of its greatest weaknesses when it comes to shared and collaborative environments. So what happens if we were working on a bunch of ProRes 1080 material and now we've moved to 4K? Well, we need a lot more space. That's a lot bigger file type. So we need to be able to adjust on the fly. And with many, many shared storage systems, in order to change the size of a workspace you've already carved up, so like the Adobe space as you see here on the left, we have to migrate everything off. We have to then rebuild the space to the larger size that we want it to be, and then we have to migrate everything back on. That can take a very long time. So same thing, if we enter the admin utility again, and we start to admin the system, I can come in here. We have a simple drop down. I'm going to slide this over so we can see both. And now we can see the Adobe Share, Adobe Avid. We're not particularly interested in Avid today, so let's work on the Adobe Share. So right now it's 800 gigs. Maybe we need more space. Let's go ahead and crank that up to a terabyte. So it's going to save. As it syncs back to the server now, the ShareBrowser will notice that change. And we'll watch that volume grow to a terabyte. I now have more free space to work with. We'll see that happen across every workstation here. So if we do get some extra footage, or someone rented a different camera than we were anticipating and the source material came in larger, we have the ability on the fly to dynamically resize and adjust to whatever workflow that the new project may throw at us. So again, a lot of flexibility here for you. The next thing I want to go talk about is deliverables. So we have to deliver these files in some way. Some people ship them on hard drives, but more and more we're seeing it be very, very common to move to the cloud. And again, we want you to have one pane of glass. We want you to manage everything from one workspace and with your production application to keep everything streamlined. So if we come into the preferences pane of the ShareBrowser here, the other thing we can do is we can expose any of these 5 cloud services right here. We're always adding more, and they will show up as a share on the left-hand side that can then be mounted. We can move things, deliverable files, off to the cloud space for remote delivery to clients. So this can be indexed so we know what's been sent out to the cloud space. We know what's up there for delivery. But this creates another unique problem. I can paste and verify onto the cloud, and I can make sure that my deliverable is intact as I last saw it. But when someone on the other end goes and pulls that down, there's a lot of network hops. They're going to hit, their ISP, coming down to their network, through their network, back to their workstation to pull this file down and review it. And you can get that same silent corruption. So what if we want something that's a little more permanent? Maybe something we could deliver with the file to make sure that it's the way it was when it left our post house or our production facility. We can do that. We're going to right-click here, and I'm actually going to generate and store what's called an MD5 checksum. This is an industry standard way of doing data verification. Any of you guys out there who've ever had to deliver anything to Discovery Network are intimately familiar with the MD5 checksum. But we can do this. It's going to generate. I'm going to get a little digital sidecar right here, .md5. And then I could drag both of these over to my cloud space. And when the user on the other end pulls them down, they have the ability to use any standard MD5 software, things like ShotPut Pro, Carbon Copy Cloner, to then verify against this. If the end user has ShareBrowser and an EVO in their environment, and maybe you're moving it between two post locations, we can even verify from directly within our user interface. Oh, there's a problem there. We moved it. So now we know. We know that this file is not the way it's supposed to be. And then we can re-upload it and generate a new MD5. Let's check this one. This one hasn't moved. This one was successful, so we know this file is great. So this is a nice little peace of mind feature, and quite frankly, a CYA feature. If someone calls you and says, this doesn't look right, your deliverable is messed up, what did you do? And as we all know, the next words out of their mouth are usually, and we're not paying you for this. We can say, nope, look at the MD5, make sure it's the way it should be, and if it's not, go ahead and re-download it and make sure everything's all right. So you're protected. It's not your name on the line because the internet dropped some bits on the way over. The next thing I want to show you is kind of walk around that preferences pane a little bit more. There's a couple of things that make this even easier to deal with. First and foremost is the auto mount volumes upon login. When we log into the ShareBrowser, it remembers our credentials to whatever shares we've mapped into it, and it will remount them upon login. So we don't have to go manually share by share and mount and unmount every time we want to work with the system. The other thing we can do, if we have maybe proxy material generated for preview, so that we're not, maybe a producer is reviewing a file up in this upper right pane, we can link that path, and we can say, you know what, I only want to display proxy files in the preview pane, so that we're not bogging down the network while someone's just doing a quick review or scrub. And that way we don't have to worry about, maybe a producer is pulling a full 4K stream or something. They can just take a look at it, give a quick approval with the comments pane, and get us right back to where we need to go. That path is assigned here. So if something is generated the proxies, we will tell the EVO where to go and where the source is, and it will remember that link to make sure that you're not killing the network. This is also useful for archive appliances that may or may not have leave proxies behind to be able to search what's in archive while something is completely offline. Then the next thing I wanted to jump over to, we've been really focused on Adobe Premiere here, but obviously the Adobe Creative Suite goes very far beyond Premiere. We go all the way, to have VFX with After Effects, to grading with SpeedGrade, transcoding with Media Encoder, and the like. So this locking mechanism is not unique to Premiere for us, or to a particular NLE, so to speak. Any production application that you may be using in your environment that uses a single file object is going to be lockable. And we're going to see that here. I'm going to come into the Adobe Share, same place we went to resize it. We're going to come in and we're going to tell it what kind of files we want to lock. We're going to see that here at the bottom. So this share is set up to do Photoshop documents. So if you have graphics users or a graphics department that may be collaborating on deliverable material, whether it be into a video stream or out for publication, you can see we have InDesign here, star.id, we have After Effects. We can even lock Word documents if we want to. And then the other thing we can do to make sure that as we set this up, that it's homogeneous across every project, is we can set these to be default. So you can see by default here we've set FCP, Premiere, Pro Tools, After Effects, and Sony Vegas. We can edit those defaults and make it anything that we want to. So whatever production application you're typically using, or any production application you may add to your environment as your needs change, can quickly be added here and locked in the same way we saw the Premiere files locked earlier. So with that, let's come back kind of to the slide deck, and let's try to figure out, too, which server is going to be best for you. Because there's the neat thing about our industry is that we're all kind of doing the same thing. We're all outputting video at the end of the day, but we can all get there in a very different way. There's lots of different ways to kind of skin that cat. And over the course of years, basically, what you guys may have in your environment is different than what somebody else has in another environment. And one of the real strengths of the EVO, again, is its open architecture to be able to manage third-party storage inside of the ShareBrowser and to be able to kind of maximize the life of any legacy storage or direct attached drives that you might have. So with that, I'm going to pop back over to the slide deck here. Bear with me just one sec. So as we just saw with the ShareBrowser, we can search, index all of the storage on the network wherever it's plugged in. As you can plug a USB drive into an EVO and get it indexed. You can plug that same USB drive into a workstation and get it indexed. So again, a lot of flexibility. The ability to share Creative Cloud projects and media across the network in real time, live streaming to prevent you from having to copy, push and pull down to local workstations, which can be tedious. The ability to work with the entire Adobe suite of products. Also adding keyword and tagging to be able to quickly find your assets, navigate to them with as few as 2 clicks. Extra data verification tools for peace of mind, and then the ability to preview both online and path-based proxy. And so what we've done is we've really tried to move beyond just shared storage, and we've come to workflow-defined storage. How else does that storage help you work? We want to keep everything as affordable and easy to use as humanly possible. We were actually born out of an end user. We were born out of an audio studio, and we've always kept that customer mentality of I don't want to be stuck with something. I want it to be able to work with whatever else I would bring in to the network. And with that in mind, you'll notice we also have a full lineup of servers. We don't just want to force you into one large server that's crazy scalable and would go beyond anything you may ever need. So that's what we see there on the right, and we'll dig in here now to a more specific kind of the highlights of each individual server and where it might be best fit. So first and foremost, we have our EVO RU Prodigy. And guys, it's important to note right here that every one of these servers has the ShareBrowser. It has the ShareBrowser in unlimited fashion with no per-seat license fee. So if you start with 2 or 3 or 4 editors today, or even one, if you're just a one-man band rocking, and you could grow over the next years, or you bring on freelancers or different projects, you're going to get the full functionality that you see here, that you saw here today, and you're going to do it at no per-seat license fees. You start out with 2 people this year, you add 10 people next year, we are going to give you more software. I'm not going to chase you down for a license or upgrade charge. So first we have our RU Prodigy. This thing is great. It's only 15 inches deep, 16 inches deep. It can be a carry-on a plane. So if you're doing a lot of live event stuff, if you have to go on set or on site somewhere and take some storage with you and maybe 2 or 3 editors are working in a hotel room, we're not having to worry about copying across multiple users, and we're saving a ton of time. We get to go to bed at a reasonable hour instead of being up till 4 a.m. editing to have something ready for delivery in the morning. This is also great for DSLR if you're just photo and graphics. To be able to have that file locking within the Adobe suite, to be able to have that tagging and quickly find your files. That's basically a shared bridge database almost, to be able to do it within that single interface. Also wonderful for audio production, where the files aren't as large, but we're still very, very concerned about speed and making sure that that comes in real time with no latency. And then, because EVO can manage third-party storage, this is a great front-end way to kind of get a foot, the first step into the EVO workflow and into these more advanced Adobe workflows while still leveraging existing RAIDs you might have around. You know, if you had an old kind of, maybe it was a fiber attached RAID, maybe it was an XSAN that you want to replace that you had with Final Cut, and you want to keep using that storage, it's still working, it's still streaming the media. Even if it's an XSAN, the EVO can, the XSAN can show up as a volume on the left-hand side of that column we were looking at earlier in the ShareBrowser. It can be indexed, it can be searched. You can put your Adobe project files on this small Prodigy and have those locked while all the media streams off of that XSAN. So this can come in and really make whatever existing storage you have much more intelligent and much more workflow friendly. As we come down, the next one up in our kind of lineup here is the EVO 8-bay. What's neat with the 8-bay is it's a bit heftier machine. It's 2 RU, starting to get a little bigger. It can handle significantly more throughput because by virtue of the number of disks, and it starts to be scalable within our EVO family. So the 8-bay EVO can actually take a 16-bay expansion chassis. It can grow to have 24 disks in it. We can go with up to 6 terabyte drives there, so you could have 144 terabytes in a nice self-contained little system, all managed again through the ShareBrowser with file locking. So where we see a lot of the 8-bays go in is live event production for ROS users with their Expression, or for the NewTek TriCaster. We can really extend the internal storage capacity of those and make everything, again, quickly available with our easy-to-use asset management. These are great for corporate in-house environments. Any of you guys who maybe work at a larger corporation, but you're the creative department, and the IT department thinks they can carve off a small piece of their big IT SAN for you and let you work off of it, you've all experienced the drop frames from that. That's not what that central IT server was designed to do. And the IT guys don't really understand what you're trying to do. They have a different kind of concern. The type of I/O they deal with is different than the type of I/O that we deal with on a day-to-day basis as video editorials. We don't open a lot of files. We open 1 or 2 files, but they better stream fast. And that throughput better be sustained. It better not be up and down. So these servers are kind of tuned differently, and quite often what you can do is just tell the IT guys, hey, look, this is going to be a self-contained little island. This can take up to 10 direct connect users without the need to even touch the corporate IT environment. Also good as a transitory step for that small to medium post house. One of the cool things here is we can move the 8-bay up into a 16-bay. We can take the drives out and actually move into the larger chassis I'm going to show you here in just a second. This is also great for houses of worship with smaller edit teams that have a lot of users that maybe come in and out for as volunteers. And now we have kind of the mothership here. This is the 16-bay EVO. This one can take up to 80 disks, so 4 more expansion chassis on the back of it. So with 6 terabyte drives, this guy can grow to 480 terabytes in a single node. And then if you start stacking nodes next to each other, we can scale easily into the petabytes or the exabytes. This is better for things that require super high throughput. Think DPX sequences on a color grade, TIFF sequences, just larger files, 6K as we get into that if we're editing natively in Premiere, bigger user count, so think academic labs, educational environments, and then just larger production studios. This guy is great for reality TV because we generate a ton of footage, we have a ton of editors all working, needing to work in real time and collaborate, and this just keeps everything organized and much simpler. So as we come down here too, we're also part of the JB&A family, something we've been doing. We've been working with JB&A now for many, many years. And what JB&A really brings to the table is a whole suite of products that can integrate to the EVO. So here we see the Zendata LTO archive. Our ShareBrowser can help to manage that archive and tell you what's on the tape. We have CatDB asset management, which goes a little larger and gives you web search capability and user groups. But our easy-to-use asset management can then export anything you've tagged as you outgrow it into a CatDB system, so you don't have to retag everything. We touched briefly on live event production with NewTek TriCaster. Imagine bringing an entire season's worth of clips to you to a football game instead of just what the 2 or 3 or 4 terabytes internal to the TriCaster can handle, and having the highlights available at any given moment. We're also the only storage certified on the back of the ROS expression system for on-screen graphics. Imagine 8 different on-screen graphics editors and artists all collaborating, all getting different graphics ready and all having them available to air from any workstation and through the control panel in real time. Blackmagic design. We use Blackmagic for many a thing. We don't touch on it too much here, but we can use Blackmagic for direct SDI ingest from a camera to the server. So we can go live to edit from the camera in one step. We don't have to worry about a transcode. We don't have to worry about going through a workstation. And then obviously Adobe for connectivity. Adobe makes some great Thunderbolt 10 gig or fiber channel adapters. We use them quite often. If you have any additional questions or anything else that you'd like a more targeted demo to your environment, maybe you'd like to see EVO interact with DaVinci, maybe you do have a few seats of Avid in addition to After Effects, and you want to see us give you that Avid project and bin sharing workflow, feel free to give us a call, reach out, certainly follow us on Twitter, and watch for any fun videos we may put up on YouTube.
All right. Are you ready for some questions, Steve?
I was about to say, Laura, I am ready. Let's open up the floor.
Okay. Actually, so far, it looks like mostly just comments, you know, like thank you, we love SNS. If anybody has any additional questions, Steve really was very thorough. That was an awesome demonstration. Thanks so much, Steve. But if anybody has any questions, like Steve said, you can also reach out to your JB&A team and we can get those answered for you. Steve, I'm sure would love to jump in and answer some of those too over there at SNS. But I'm not seeing any questions coming in right now, Steve. So
all right, guys, last
wait
chance.
here. I've got one just came in. Our production house formerly used Final Cut Server and have lots of metadata already out there in an XSAN environment. Is there any way to harvest that metadata?
So XSAN is fairly unique in the from an XML import standpoint. If it is living in Final Cut 7, it's already a Final Cut 7 XML. You can absolutely suck that into Premiere. As of right now, you would have to retag it inside the ShareBrowser. However, we are working on a way to do that import. So look for that in coming releases. Certainly on our roadmap, we are trying to clean up that transition for everybody from Final Cut 7 to Premiere.
Okay.
Oh, and guys, too, if you have any Final Cut 7 workstations still floating around, if you still got legacy projects that you're working on there, this file locking mechanism will work again for those Final Cut 7 files to give you that same collaboration.
Okay. Somebody else is asking, what are the additional apps installed with ShareBrowser, admin app, etc.?
So the ShareBrowser client obviously is going to go on every machine. There is a ShareBrowser admin as well. That's used primarily for setting up the indexing, kind of telling the EVO what volumes we want indexed. What's really neat here too is the ability to index only specific file types. Maybe we don't want to index everything or anything like that. So really on the workstation itself, ShareBrowser client needs to be installed on every machine. You probably need ShareBrowser admin on one machine, and that's it.
Okay. All right, so unless another question comes in while we're signing out here, Steve, oh wait, here. I talked this in, does SNS require Apple backend management?
No, everything is self-contained in our server, and we control those server and client side. So again, it's a Linux server. It's designed to really play nice with everything and be super stable. It's just that mantra we've always had, again, coming out of an end-user environment of saying, we don't want to lock you in. We don't want you to be dependent on something else. This thing should just work and go and play with everything else on your network.
Okay, perfect. Beautiful. All right, sounds good. Well, thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Thank you, Stephen, or Steve. Sorry, I keep reverting back to the longer version of your name.
Either
and
but you
yeah. Yeah, thanks everybody, and yeah, reach out to us with any additional questions and we'll get with Steve to get some of those answered for you. All right, thanks, Steve. Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you guys so much again, and I look forward to hearing from as many of you as we can. And don't forget to come check us out at the CCW show here in just a couple of weeks in New York. JB&A and SNS will both be exhibiting. And we've got some fun stuff to see.
Thank you so much for promoting that. I don't know if you know what your booth number is, Steve. JB&A will be in 1143. And then, do you happen to know your booth number at CCW?
Not off the top of my head, I got to be honest.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. And then also check out the JB&A Roadshow, where we have the complete solutions set up, all, you know, a bunch of different products all working together in unique different workflow situations, and SNS is featured in that too. So you can find all that on our website at jbna.com. And thanks again.
Thanks, everybody.
Right.
Have a great day.
Sure. You too. Bye-bye.